puppet. I can't remember the puppet's name. But, he kind of had what they call irrational exuberance. He had this belief that, he's going to just keep making money, everything's going to be fine. And then what happened is that irrational exuberance led to very bad, destructive financial choices where he was, borrowing everything, getting money out of his roommate's shoebox, borrowing against his 401k, all these other things in order to make the money. And I've heard people talk about getting money off their credit card to buy, Bitcoin and other crypto. And I remember saying to somebody, I said, I don't think that's a good idea. And then you saw where he was rejecting good advice. John was being level-headed and kind of saying, hey, man, there are rules. You got to be careful, right? And he said, man, you just hating. I'm about to be richer than a bitch, and you just hating, right? And so ultimately, that's what kind of occurs, right? And this is actually what happens in the financial system. If you want to understand the 2007 financial crash, that video pretty much explains how the Wall Street guys ruined, almost literally crumbled the entire United States economy because they had irrational exuberance for a long time. And when things were going well, they didn't want regulation. They didn't want advice from anybody. They felt like they knew everything. But then when everything crashed, that was when they turned to the federal government with their hat in their hand saying, we need $700 billion for you to bail us out. And so ultimately it becomes a game of what they call heads I win, tails you lose. And that's basically where you have people that think, again, like the puppet and like the guys on Wall Street, that if everything goes well, then I'm the king of it all. It's my money. Don't tell me what to do. But if things go bad, then suddenly you're broken down to the point where you're going to have to go beg somebody else to help you clean up the mess that you created yourself. So you saw at the end of the little skit, what was the puppet doing, right? He's like, I got to go down and help Miss Johnson in her time of need and I got to demean myself because I've screwed myself. I pucked myself so badly that now I got to go puck the old lady down the hall in order for me to make money. Now, how many times in your life do you see or know people who have to do things that are degrading, demeaning, and dehumanizing because they did not plan ahead financially? How often do you know people that are begging relatives to help them pay the rent because they want to spend their money on a hair weave? How many guys do you see crying like little babies and asking relatives for financial help so they can pay child support for over a bunch of kids where people warn them for years, if you keep messing with all these girls and don't wear a condom, you're going to have all these children, right? How many times do you see people going to work every day on a job they hate, dealing with sexism, racism, and all kinds of isms, and being demeaned on a daily basis because when they were younger and had a chance to go to school and get a skill so they could get a better job or start a business, they didn't want to do all of that? How many times do you see people that feel that their lives are financially stuck and they have to do these horrible things in order to just barely get by? But that same person, when you show up and you say something like, hey, like I'll use myself as an example. I say, hey, the Black Business School is free. You can join for free. Like we know everything white people know. You don't have to be a slave to white people. You can actually compete with them. They're like, I don't want to hear all that. I can tell you what. I'll tell you this. I saw a video. Let me tell you, I was talking to Daryl Bell. Daryl Bell is another guy who's going to partner with us in the Black Business School. Daryl Bell, I mentioned him before. He played on a different world. He was Dwayne Wade's best friend. But Daryl Bell is a very smart guy. In real life, he's more fascinating than he is on TV, than he was on TV. He was very good on TV, but he's better in real life. Daryl and I talk a lot about investing, and Daryl is his father created the first black firm on Wall Street. That's how deep the history is with his family, and I respect him for that. And one thing that Daryl showed me in our conversation was he said something like to the effect like, he said, well, how many people come in to your YouTube channel? How many people watch? I said, I don't know. We got about 250,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Every week our videos will get maybe 500,000 views or something like that by the time we finish, passing them around and everything. And he said, let me show you something. I said, what? Show me. And he pulled up on YouTube. He looked up a video and he said, this video has 42 million views. And I said, well, what's the video about? He said, think about this. He said, you would think that with the condition black people are in, the struggles that we have, the problems that we run into when it comes to white supremacy and a lack of information, which ultimately leaves us enslaved, the lack of education, which leaves our children out here stranded because for some reason they want to turn on World Star as opposed to actually opening a book. Because I got 50, 60 books right here on my phone. Anybody can do the same thing. He said, you would think that with the struggles that we have as a people, that the video getting the most views would be the one with the most knowledge. Right? It would be the one with the most education, the one that gives the greatest opportunity for personal liberation. And he said, no. He said, the video I'm showing you right now, the video had 42 million views, and the title of the video was Tig Old Bitties. Tig Old Bitties. Right? In case you don't know, just flip it around. It's another way of saying big old titties. Right? And it was a hip-hop video. There was a cartoon where they were rapping about how big a girl's boobs were. Right? And so he said, that's our problem. He said that if you do something that is ratchet and ignorant and stupid and destructive, you're going to get all the attention in the world from black people. But if you do something that is constructive and educational and preparational and leads to building, you're going to get only the people there who are going to be the ones who have to carry the whole family on their back because they got a bunch of relatives who don't want to learn anything. Those of you who are here, I admire you not just because you're smart and you want to make yourselves better and you want to build a better future. I admire you because you've accepted the massive burden that comes when you're the only member in your clique or in your family that actually wants to get out of the grips of white supremacy. You're the only one around sometimes where you actually are like, hey, maybe instead of sitting around watching another TV show, we can actually start a book club. Maybe instead of spending our money going out tonight, we can take that money and make an investment. Maybe instead of us slaving away on these crappy jobs and then going home and complaining about how racist our boss is every day, we can actually pool our money together and start a business. Maybe instead of buying houses for our landlord and paying rent for 30 years, we can actually pool our money together and go learn in say the black real estate school, learn how to get an FHA loan and buy a house. Right? That's what you are. You're unfortunately you are not the majority. I don't know, it'll be 70 years before you become the majority. You'll eventually be the majority, but your grandkids will be, but you won't be because you know what's out here. The ignorance is winning. So I'm just trying, and he actually talked about, a person that we know about that has a platform that's doing like ratchet stuff, and everybody loves it, but nobody really wants to learn. Nobody really wants to grow. Everybody wants to complain about white supremacy, but nobody wants to fix it. Stop complaining. Nobody will hear you complaining. The white man sure as hell ain't listening to you complain. The white man ain't hearing none of that. We know he ain't hearing none of that because he's not built to hear you begging for mercy after you have signed yourself up for slavery every opportunity you get. And I don't want to hear it. I can only tolerate so much complaining about a problem that can be fixed. If my kitchen is really dirty right now, it's a complete mess right now. I'm looking at it. It disgusts me that it's such a mess. But how dumb would I look if I sat here complaining for 5 hours about how messy my kitchen is? Eventually one of y'all would say, well, Boyce, why don't if you get up and you start picking stuff up, you're not going to have as much to complain about. But maybe I'm going to get mad at you for suggesting that I get up and clean the kitchen for 2 reasons. One, because you're asking me to do work. When I'm sitting here running my mouth, that's excusing me from doing any work, right? And then number 2, what you're doing is you're forcing me to acknowledge the fact that I somehow have become addicted to my victimhood. Some people really enjoy being victims. It's a habit that's hard to break. It's easy to be a victim because you ain't got to do nothing. But I encourage you to be empowered. Be empowered. Do something about it. So let me remind you guys real quick before we go, because I'm getting pushed and carried away.